Hey everyone, I'm Victor Dwyer, and this is the Marketing Perspective podcast, where we discuss about the latest marketing trends and what's happening in the world. And today we're going to be talking about profitability on Amazon. I'm really excited. We have Daniel on with us, and we're going to go through about profitability. And he's also going to give us a little intro of who he is and how he got started in the Amazon world. Daniel, thank you so much for joining today. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
What's up, guys? My name's Daniel, or DT in the Amazon world. I run an agency called Straight Up Growth. We do, about half a billion a year in Amazon sales. So, Bezos per Bezos, as I like to say. Call
Mhm.
myself our Chief Learning Officer. So excited to do some learning today.
I love that. And it's so funny. Like if whenever you're in a company, it's like you're all the way it seems like you're the janitor, then you're the chief learning officer, and it's just like you're so many different parts of the business. It's funny. So I like the chief learning
Oh
officer.
yeah, oh yeah, that's my go-to. So,
That's
uh,
great. Yeah, and then just like kicking it off, what would you say? Obviously, most people are struggling with profitability right now. So many Amazon sellers, everyone's talking about revenue, gross revenue, but very few people are talking about doing amazing profitability wise. So I love for you to go into some strategies with Q4 coming up and with rising cost of advertising. That's going to suck for a lot of people. And a lot of people just have been really struggling on the profitability side. So, what would you say are the top three categories that people need to focus on? Whether if that's pricing, like what do you think the top three categories that people should focus on when it comes to
yeah,
profitability?
so I think the first and most important, and it's going to be one that people don't think about, is forecasting, right? And building out not just a 1 month model, not just like what did I do in the last 7 days here, but what am I expecting to do on a yearly basis, right? That's what allows brands to still hit those like great gross revenue numbers, but also be profitable, right? And the biggest reason for that is, let's say you're in an aggressive category, right? If you're selling supplements, you've got a 19.99 to $29 price point item, right? Your
Uh-huh.
average CPC, if you're net new, is $10 a click, right? So good luck. It doesn't matter if you have a 50% conversion rate, you're already not profitable on that first purchase. And so thinking about the long term is really important. There's still plenty of supplement brands that hit. And the biggest reason why is they're forecasting out how they're actually going to make their money, right? There. So that's number one.
Mhm.
Um, Two, pricing is a huge thing to consider, right? Brands will or sellers will come out thinking they're going to launch an item at a certain price point there, but they don't think about the discounting that needs to kick into that, right? If you're launching
Yeah.
that new, you have an audience, right? A low launch price strategy might be needed, and so actually figuring out your pricing associated with your cash flow and things like that is huge. And the biggest thing for us to hit profitability is organic revenue, right? That's where you make your money on Amazon. One of the things I do with an audit typically is I look at your percentage of ads driven rev there. If you're 60% plus, even higher than 40%, that really makes a big impact. So anytime your ad cost goes up, if it's a large percentage, it really hits your margins. If you can improve your organic revenue, get your sales to be 40% or less ads driven, now it's not as big of an impact on the bottom line, right? We've got brands that are looking at 5%, ads driven, right? In super duper competitive categories. At that point, they don't care if their cost per acquisition goes up a little bit because organic revenue is going to surpass any ads driven at that point.
Yeah. So, obviously, you know this. 3 years ago, even 5 years ago, the organic placements were amazing, where they'd be at the top of the page, where it was like 70% of page one was organic ranking, and then 30% was sponsored. And now we've done a complete flip on that now, where most of it's sponsored and the organic ranking. So, what are some strategies that you have that people can do to really increase their organic sales?
Yeah, so you mentioned like Q4, right? And especially get all those holidays and stuff. One of the big mistakes brands make is they start to try to win that week, right? Or that day. And at that point, you're already too late. Somebody else already ranks well, right? Ranking is really done based off of performance. So Amazon's looking at number of orders against the competitiveness of your search term, right? So the more competitive the search term, the more orders a month you need to actually drive. For us, concentrating your spend, for example, on you might have 50 SKUs in your catalog, but you have a finite budget, right? And maybe you can't compete with the big brands on all of your items, but concentrate your spend on a single SKU. right? Get that to rank on the non-branded search terms. Now, when you get into peak holiday times and you're running a discount, typically the first ranking product in search gets 35% of click share, right? First three ranking product in search gets 60% of all clicks. So if you can get to yourself up to those top three placements prior to those big days, now you'll really, really be loving your prime days. You'll be loving your Q4 because you've already done the work to get there, right? But that should be happening now, right? Today is when you should be trying to rank for your prime day next month.
Yeah, I love that. And you touched on pricing. What can people do to really adjust their pricing? It's been a very debated topic on they people come to me and say, "Hey, Victor, I want to raise my prices, but when I do, my sales drop." So, well, like, how do you go about dynamic pricing testing, and how do you go about doing like when it comes down to pricing?
Great question. So I have, for example, we're the number one keto item on Amazon right now, right? And this is one where we literally started with what we call a low launch price strategy. We're now by far the most expensive item in our category, right? There. And so the way we kind of do it is we usually step ladder based on reviews. So different review thresholds are going to produce different conversion rates. But really, you just want to watch ad conversion rate and unit session percentage. Those are going to be your sale like they will be your indicators of if you're priced too high or not, right? So as you go up, you will see some decreases in your conversion rates, but um, the key, like your sales usually dropping off, is usually because you're losing visibility. So like for my brand that's priced most expensive in our category, we know we monitor brand analytics on a weekly basis. So anytime my conversion share starts to drop, I know I need to be more aggressive on an advertising perspective in order to still drive enough sales. Right now, the key is making sure my conversion rate doesn't drop too much. So our conversion rate on the ads front dropped like 4%, right? But 4% drop when I'm converting at 35% already on non-branded search terms, I don't care. Like 30% conversion rate still puts me well above average. And so that's where the sales drop is not due to pricing, but it's actually due to the fact that I'm losing visibility, right? So that's where if you are messing around with pricing, as long as conversion rate's still strong, really its sessions is down. And so it just means you need to put more ad dollars behind it to make it work.
Yeah, that's super valuable. And I love for you to touch on your first point about forecasting. How do you go about forecasting rather than month to month? Forecasting um, accurately, number one, and then forecasting where you're actually profitable, number two.
So one of the key things I'll say is to try to, I mean, if you have existing data, it's great, right? Because you can start to figure out what is my typical cost per acquisition, what are my typical CPCs, what are my typical ad conversion rates. One caveat I'll say is take a look at your search term level data from an ads perspective and look at what terms are actually valuable, right? If you're spending on super long tail keywords and they have really low search volumes, just because you want to spend more there doesn't mean that you can, right? Eventually, they just run out of searches. So look at the terms that you would actually try to rank on. Look at what those CPCs look like, and then just start to model that out by month, right? So maybe I'm spending $2 a click now, but if I want to rank well, I know that those terms are $3.50 a click. Add that into your formula, right? There. The other thing I try to bake in is some sort of improvement in organic ranking, right? And look at your budget to kind of associate how quickly will that happen. If I have a small budget, my organic growth is going to be pretty slow, right? There. So I might add
Mm-hmm.
a couple units a month organic increase. If I know I'm spending a lot, now I might add 100 or 200, 300 organic units a month there because of the fact that I expect to have better placements. And then my pro tip is be on the conservative side, right? Bake something in where maybe your CPCs you expect to be 320, you put them in at 350, right? So you have that little bit um, of wiggle room so that you can make sure you're under promising and over delivering ultimately there.
Yeah, I love that. And then when it comes down to product launches, um, like what is your path to profitability for that? Because obviously you have to for the flywheel effect to spend on that, and then to get reviews to get a higher conversion rate.
Yep.
Like, what is your path to profitability when it comes to launching products?
So I think the first key is to like understand your market that you're going into, right? There, different categories are going to be different in regards to how competitive they are. So I know if I'm going into supplements, I'm building an 18-month model, right? Because it's so hard to make money in that
Yeah.
category. It takes me a long time, right? If I'm going into something that's a little bit more obscure, maybe it's like $1 million a month type of category, right? There, and it's fragmented. That's one where I could probably be a little bit more aggressive, on my initial forecast. But understanding what that looks like is key. Look at how many reviews your competitors have. Look at how you price compared to your competitors. Also, are you a differentiator, right? Or not? Like in this keto example, I'm selling the same thing as most other people, right? There. So in that case, it's hard to differentiate. Reviews and listing are key, right? If I have a differentiator, I might be able to get away with a little bit of extra growth. The other things to consider from a launch perspective, what do I have outside of Amazon? Do I have influencers? Do I have spend that I'm associating to spend outside? Or is it a pure Amazon launch, right? Because if it's a pure Amazon launch, you're going to start with 0 organic units a month, right? If you
Yeah.
start with some outside traffic, now you can bake in a little bit of a expectations on some initial sales there. But overall, like I think understanding your market is going to be really, really key. And being honest with yourself too, right? Like I've had brands, that I've talked to and they're like, oh, well, we think we can do 40% of the sales of this brand. And I'm like, well, why? What?
Hmm.
Well, just cause, like that is not a real reason. You need to have some data behind it to really like give yourself a proper chance of launching.
Yeah. And what numbers are you looking at data wise? To what KPIs are you looking at on a monthly basis and weekly basis to gauge that and to really see the profitability? Because obviously Amazon does not make these things easy. You have to go to like
Yeah.
17 different spots. And so what KPIs are you looking at to really gauge the profitability of the business?
So we actually we've got API access with Amazon. So we built a tool like a profitability, like a P&L by product, basically. Within that, I will say though, understanding your margins, your FBA fees, your referral fees, your ad costs are really key. We've had brands that never take a look, right? And they're always looking at the top line and their ad spend. And it's like, it's helpful, but that's half the cost there, right? We're not talking about any of our shipping fees and stuff like that. So there are some reports in the under the like orders or the payments reports is also helpful to kind of figure out what your P&Ls look like a little bit there. I'll say some typical metrics we look at to figure out your path to profitability are usually sessions, orders, revenue, conversion rate, and then we do that on both the total and the ads driven front. Um, we like to know your percentage of ads driven because that's an indicator of like, okay, how dependent are you on advertising there?
Mhm.
We like to look at conversion rate because Amazon also provides category data on competitors, right? And so where do your competitors convert at? Are you below or above, right? That's a good indicator to see like
Mhm.
if you're below average conversion rate, profitability can be increased by optimizing your listing, right? Very easily. And then the last piece is sessions, right? So some brands are doing, let's say they've got great conversion rates, but they're really light on sessions. That means they have a traffic issue, right? And so really they need to get better organic visibility to get closer to profitability over time as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And when it comes down to the optimization standpoint of the product page to drive more organic growth through SEO titles and things like that, is there any specific tips or tricks that you have that are unique that people that you either see, like let's say in the supplement space, that you see people aren't doing, like, oh, they don't have infographics, they need to do that. Like, is there anything that you're
Yeah.
seeing in the Amazon space
So
that
I
people
think the
aren't doing
biggest
that need
thing
to?
is like brands still think of like SEO tying into the listing. Like if I put protein bar in my title and bullet points and my back end keywords, I'm going to rank that much better. It's not really the case, right? Really, what ends up happening is you get indexed against this. So Amazon ranks you, but you're on page 5, right? What Amazon really wants to see is orders against the search term in order to convert better. So our uh, best advice is typically focus on improving your conversion rates specifically with your listings, right? So that's where things like adding images to your adding text to your image stacks, right? 81% of sales happen on mobile, for example, on Amazon. So your bullet points push down below the fold, right? Customers are buying off of your images. So adding something like text to an image can be a huge way to improve conversion rate. A plus premium, right? A plus premium, we used to have to pay $50,000 to get access to a single listing, right? For A plus premium. I see so many brands not using it. But like we had a brand go from a 9 to a 17% conversion rate, going from A plus to A plus premium, right? So you can really, really crush it there. From a conversion rate standpoint, the better you convert, the more likely it is you're now converting on those terms you want to rank on. And then the more orders you're getting there, the better your SEO becomes. So it's going to follow ranking, but it's not a direct impact, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. And are there any other strategies that you have that are specific during this Q4? I know you mentioned about going ranking before deals, doing anything else. Do you have any other strategies that people need to implement for this Q4 to
Yeah,
make it a little bit more profitable?
people should be looking at things like brand tailored promotions. They're free. There's a lot of different types of campaigns. Amazon's opening up new ones, but you can hit people who have like viewed but not purchased your items. You can get people who've like purchased a different item. You can hit a campaign on like a new item that you're selling or things like that. So customers that you're at risk of losing. We have one customer that like sent out an email and did $43,000 off a brand tailored promotion there. So
Wow,
it's just like it's a 10% discount that we offered to just one segment, of their audience. So,
that's
um,
amazing.
yeah, you always want to explore some of the new options that Amazon has, especially when they're free, because sometimes they hit.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask you about the story of SUG, the started company, the co-founded company,
Yeah,
and how that came about.
yeah. So it's funny. I actually met my business partner Evan at a networking event. There, I had been doing Amazon for since 2016. I said before it was cool. Like when Amazon had just a sidebar advertisement, that's what I was doing back in the day. And so I kind of had a vision of just running an agency a little bit differently. Like my methodology was a little bit different. We really focus on organic revenue growth. We really look at we want brands that are aggressive and want to kind of win. It's very on brand for what we do. And so I think I met Evan 3 times. We met at a networking event, got dinner, and then we like got drinks one time, and then we were like, let's go. So we started February right before COVID. We were super pumped. Then COVID hit, and I was absolutely panicked that it wasn't going to work out for sure. But yeah, we've scaled it nicely. Now we are at about 33 employees, manage 50 million a year in spend. We're an Amazon ad partner. So it's been pretty good stuff for sure. Some straight up growth.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love the name. The name
Yeah,
fits.
keeping it simple.
That's awesome. Cool. And is there anything else that Amazon seller wise that Amazon sellers need to be doing that you see that they should be?
One big mistake I'll say is having a product level strategy, right? It's one of the like most like brands will sell a lot of different items, but they're taking their ad spend and they're spreading it across everything, right? But typically, 80% of your revenue is going to come from 20% of your catalog anyway, right? And so having a strategy for what we call a hero SKU, where you're really focused on, let's say, ranking, right? You might want to then cross promote into your other items as well, because there's things you could do from a content perspective. There's things like DSP, sponsored display, where you can hit past purchasers into other items. But really, Amazon should be simple, right? It's if you can win on new customer acquisition, and then you can win on increasing your customer lifetime value over time, you're going to find profitability on Amazon. But you have to think beyond just like my overall account. What am I doing at a product by product level is something that we definitely push hard.
Yeah, that's super valuable. And is there anything that any topic that we mentioned that you want to add on to of anyone else of what any other seller should be doing? Any other tips and tricks that you have?
Yeah, I would just say like look at some of the new data Amazon's releasing, right? The brand tailored promotions is really awesome. Their updated brand analytics is sick. You can actually see things like customer lifetime value. You can see how that's growing over time. It's just like it's in beta, but they're opening it up in a lot of accounts, and it's something that
Cool.
is actually one of the biggest game changers I've seen in a long time. So
Yeah, especially if you have the supplement game and the repeat purchase, where like lifetime is where you have to go, because these people are spending 300% ACOS, 500% ACOS, and there's no way they're
Yep.
making money for the first 4 months of
Oh
their
yeah, trust me, I'm
investment.
that guy. We
Yeah,
spend we'll spend break even at a loss, baby, but we make
yeah.
profit down the line. So
So yeah, that's a rough place to be in. So yes, I
yeah,
totally agree with that.
yeah.
Um, well, cool. Thank you so much, Daniel, for joining the podcast. Please tell the audience how to find you if they're interested, to where to contact you at.
Awesome. Yeah, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, Daniel Tejada. We like him a lot. There, you can also find us at straightupgrowth.com.
Cool. Awesome. Daniel, thank you so much for joining. This is the
Thanks for
Marketing
having me.
Perspective podcast. We kept it short today. Sounds good. And we'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching.